Well, let's get straight to our next topic, and that is GCSE exam stress. Yeah, I mean, when we did our, let's face it, I'm old enough, O-levels or GCSEs, it's stressful. Kids are still stressed today. Seems to be a lot more pressure on them. Everyone's apparently supposed to get these A's and A stars, or 9s, or whatever they're called this week. But what is the solution to this level of stress? Well, according to Bridget Phillipson, the Education Secretary, it is to slash the number of exams and overhaul the national curriculum. Well, let's talk about this right now with Chris McGovern, Chairman of the Campaign for Real Education. Morning to you.
Good morning, Julia.
Now, exams have always been stressful, although I have to say I think young people are much more stressed out about these things than I was in my day. And I think parents and teachers are responsible for an awful lot of that. But what is it exactly that Bridget Phillipson is promising to do?
Well, she doesn't like exams, obviously, or doesn't like too many exams, although I think that's a bit of stress is quite good in our lives. I mean, I support Aston Villa. I've suffered from decades of stress. And it's quite good, I think, sometimes to understand that children don't always need to be happy and unstressed. It's good to challenge them for them to be resilient.
Yeah. And there are times when you need to perform on the day.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think where the Education Secretary is taking us is back to the idea of coursework, and that will be written, of course, by the middle-class parents and by AI, becomes unreliable. Nothing is more reliable than a simple pen and paper test, and yet I know it can be stressful, but that's good in a way. We need to test children more. If in private schools, quite often they do tests every week. Problem is in the state set, they're not doing enough tests, so they're not used to tests, so it's stressful. But look, it's a step backwards. But it's a celebration time for the educational establishment. Unions are welcoming this. It's great.
The blob is loving it. I mean, these are the same people who don't want kids tested when they come into school or tested at 7 or 11 to have any idea of kids' progress, because if you don't have any proof of it, you can't ever say this school is failing or this teacher or this head teacher is failing. But there's also a lot of talk about sort of dumbing down the curriculum. And one of the things that Michael Gove did when he was Education Secretary was very much reversing that dumbing down, bringing more intellectual coherence in. We know that it did actually succeed because we've got those international comparisons and those stats that show that the pupils in England, not in Scotland or Wales, but in England, they actually went back up the international rankings. Are we looking at losing all of those gains now?
Look, I advise Michael Gove, saying I've been involved in writing 3 national curriculums, so I'm pretty familiar with the territory. Yeah. First of all, I don't think the improvement has been as great as the Conservative Party is suggesting. Yes. Actually, if you look at the most recent what I call PISA test, the international gold standard, our marks went down. But they were actually slightly better than compared to the Europeans who went down even more. But if you look at Asia, they went up. Yeah. So there's a problem there. But overall, I think there has been an improvement. And it's partly, I think, to the credit of Michaal Gove that he did introduce a little bit of rigour into the curriculum. So we're going to go backwards, I suspect. But the Tories tend to over-egg what they achieve. They achieved something, but there's still a long way to go. And did you know that in those latest tests, latest PISA tests, a couple of years ago now, a third of English schools refuse to have the test. So never be totally befuddled by the data, Julia.
No, indeed,
never
because
quite what it's in, but yes, an improvement.
Yeah, the schools that refuse to do the test are probably the ones that have the lowest scores. Again, this is all really important. We need to have external objective judgment over whether someone is achieving anything, whether kids are learning something. And at the end of the day, it is the poorest kids from the poorest homes who are being failed the most by the poor quality schools, poor teaching, and low expectations and low aspirations from their teachers and their parents often. But if teachers have got low expectations of their pupils, what a surprise those kids don't do well.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, of course, what we need is quality teachers. Yeah. The education system will succeed or fail on the quality of the teaching. The curriculum, of course, is important, but it's a shame, in my view, that Bridget Phillipson is also going to take away the right of academies to actually determine their own curriculum. That's a step backwards. Other people are saying this as well. But ultimately, though, Julia, we need high-quality teaching, and I will be on the teacher's side here and say they deserve to be paid more if they're high quality. And we need to reduce the majority of staff in school are not teachers. We need to reduce the number of non-teaching staff.
Yeah, you see the teaching assistants who we're paying a fortune for overall. But again, also, if we're going to have to pay more to get good maths and science teachers, then let's pay the going rate. If those people can go off and get a job that pays twice as much, well, of course, that's what they're doing. We need to pay the going rate. I'm with you certainly on that. Chris McGovern, always so good to talk to you. Thank you so much. Claire Pearsall, you've just been going through the education system with your kids, same as me.
Yes, absolutely. We've got GCSEs coming up. I don't think you need to dumb them down. And you know what? A bit of stress and pressure is a good thing.
I think so much of it comes from the parents and the teachers. And again, the teachers, like, you know, everyone's got to get these top grades. So that didn't exist in my day. Just like you did the exam, and it was supposed to be a representation of how well you could do.
Yes.
And it was, you know, and so some people got C's, some people got A's.
Yeah, but you learn, and throughout life, you're going to have situations where you're going to come under pressure and stress. Yeah. There's a shock, isn't it?
Apparently remember, did you not get the memo, Claire? All children are gifted. Did you not? Apart from all the kids, apparently you've got ADHD and autism and need an extra 90 minutes for the exam. Yeah, that's another thing we're going to talk about another time.